Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Laid Back Trader. As you will know, I bought an FTMO challenge yesterday, a 50,000 US dollar challenge. And now, with all of that admin out of the way, we are left with nothing else to do but to do some analysis and do some trading. I've probably picked the worst possible time to buy this challenge in terms of I'm desperate to get going, but it is Wednesday today and it will be Thursday tomorrow. So Thursday will realistically be, in my opinion, the last full day that I'll be able to trade. So hopefully, if I run through some major pairs tonight, we might be able to find a trading opportunity for tomorrow, or maybe even two. FTMO have quite strict rules. They do not allow you to carry trades over the weekend. So I am relatively reluctant to look for anything that I would deem to be a sort of short-term swing trade. So I will be looking for small setups that I can execute tomorrow and potentially leave overnight into Friday, but I will need to take them out on Friday before the markets close. So I have my trusty trading view account here and we're just going to run through a couple of pairs. I think this is I've cleared all the charts and it's going to be a good way for me to explain to everybody how I do my analysis, what I'm looking for, and yeah, and in real time find some opportunities. So we'll start with the GBP USD, so the Great British Pound against the US dollar, and I'm currently looking at the daily chart. So first what I'll do is I will assess what's going on. So on a macro level, so on the daily, straight away I'll be looking for key lines, key areas or zones of support and resistance. I will draw them in on the daily. Then we'll move down to the 4-hourly and see if we can see anything with an imminent entry. And then I'll likely take it down to the hourly or the 15-minute to see where I would quite like to enter. So straight off the bat, what I'm looking for is my key areas of support and resistance. And I can see one straight away. And I'll put my purple rectangle in there. So we can clearly see that the market has respected this area. Getting used to this mouse. We can clearly see that the market has respected this area a couple of times. Let's come up here. Huge drop to the downside. There'll be some fundamental news, the effect of COVID or Donald Trump saying something. They're coming back up and recovering and reaching this key level again. And then we can see here, if we zoom in a bit, we can see a really nice bit of rejection here. So really nice, strong, bullish impulse to the upside. And it's not a coincidence that it actually starts slowing down here. It's not exhausting. It's respecting this line. And we get this volatility. So if we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see these huge wick rejections here on these daily candles. It's because what are we looking at when we're looking at these charts? Effectively, it is mass psychology depicted on a chart. So this is human behavior en masse in the form of red and green candles. Everybody knows that this is a key area and it's come back up to this key area, and now the market's effectively deciding what it wants to do. Is it going to break above and then come back, retest, and then take off? Or is it going to hold here, not break above, and then come back down? So in terms of a nice risk to reward trade, you could argue that you could just put your trade in here and say, I'd expect it to come back down to about here and put my stop nice and safe. So get that looking a bit better. Put my stop above these previous highs, nice and safe. And what would that give us? That would give us a risk to reward of 1 to 5.73, and we'd gain some serious pips out of that. So that is actually potentially, if you were relatively cavalier, that is a trade right there. But I want to look into this in a little bit more detail. But before I do that, I'm going to draw in another area, an area of support and resistance that I've seen here. So we can see here that this is another good level to be cognizant of, be aware of it as we're going through these trades. So we can see here, market was held up as acting as support here. This, just an anomaly, just total breakthrough, comes back up A little bit of a wobble here, comes back up, respects it again. Really nice wick rejection here, respecting this previous line. You can also see that the candle formation around this area, when it came back up again, we're getting a lot of volatility, a lot of wick movement here, and then a positive breakthrough to the upside. But where is it going to go? It's only going to go to the next level of resistance, which is exactly where it is now. So what am I looking for here? I'm looking at this on the daily. I've drawn this out. I know where the support and resistance lines are, my zones are, my nice purple rectangles. So now I'm going to go down into the 4-hourly. Boom, and see what's been going on. So this is really interesting. So this is obviously the zone of resistance that we drew in on the daily. And then how did it react when it got there? So it came up, hit this. Obviously, this probably needs to be moved up a tiny bit for the purposes of the 4-hour chart. Comes up, hits this area of resistance, comes back down, thinks about it. Everybody starts thinking, do you know what? We're onto it. It's going to the downside. So you get this huge bearish candle. Then the bulls are saying, wait a minute, let's give this another go. See if we can break through. And then comes back up. Decent sign of rejection there, and a relatively small bearish candle after that. So you typically see at the top of this, these kind of like indecision or small rejection candles here. I would like to see a bit more of a move to the downside after this candle. So I wouldn't be willing to take this trade yet to the downside. I would require a bit more confirmation. So let's go down to the 15-minute chart, and we can see what's going on. So let me zoom out a little bit so we can get these two peaks. So you'll often hear people call this a double top, which is a clear double top's really simple. It hits a zone of resistance, comes up, tests it once, comes up, tests it again, double top. And then rolls over and moves to the downside. So double tops normally are quite a good indication that we are moving to the downside, which is why the market has reacted like this. Simply because it's had 2 attempts to break this line of resistance. If it hasn't done it yet, it's probably not going to, and that would be the assumption. So we can see it's come up, hit this for the double top, and it started to come back down. Straight away, I can see something else that I want to be aware of. So where would I be looking for my entry? I would expect this, to come back down here. So for me, the risk to reward might be a little bit too skewed for me. I don't necessarily think I like this. I want a bit more confirmation. So what I would typically do in this situation is I would look for trend structure on the 15-minute chart, which I can see quite clearly here. There we go. Oh, get that in there. So we can see here, nice little upward trend. It's bounced off this line. Boom, here. It's come back up and it's heading back towards it. So I would say that this area here is where it would likely to go back up to the upside if it respects this trend line. Obviously, it may not, but so let's look for a little bit more confirmation. If we get a little bit more confirmation in the form of this here, is actually quite nice. I like this. Let me zoom out a little bit. So we actually have on the 15-minute, we actually have another area of previous resistance, which could become support. So we can see that really nicely here. And like we say, we know history normally repeats itself. And I've mentioned before, very often resistance will be broken and then it will then become support. So I wouldn't be willing to take this trade until I'd seen how the market reacted to this area here. But if it pings off here, where's my arrow chart, comes back up into this area to form a triple top, then I'd be very interested to see how this reacts. Then I'd be looking for clear signs of rejection here, maybe a nice false breakout, boom, huge candle wick rejection to be seen. Then I would most definitely take the trade. But for now, I'm going to leave that there and see how it reacts to this line. like I say, if we get one more to the upside, we're going to get a better entry. If we do get rejection, we'll be looking for a sell. If we get a break above and then a retest, we'll be looking for a buy and continue this, and go with the trend, which is my preferred method. I need confirmation that this is not going to just bounce back up and cause me problems. So that's why we would go down to the lower time frame, and we've found some really nice information here, and we can now wait. More often than not, it's far better to wait to see how the market's going to react at a certain level than to just take the trade. Like we looked at earlier, we could have taken that trade, probably could have got a half decent risk to reward out of it, but we didn't really have potentially the confirmation that we needed, and not the risk to reward that we ideally want. Okay, so that is my analysis on the GBP USD. We'll leave that there, and we'll see how we can come back to that at a later date. I've watched that tonight, and then obviously see what it's done tomorrow morning. Let's move on to. I'll probably just do these two actually because it's getting quite late, and I'm quite tired. So USD Japanese yen. So this should be interesting. Okay, we can clearly see that we've had a really decent movement to the upside, and I'm looking at the 15-minute. Just ignore me. I need to sit. They all look the same, these charts. Let's look at this on the daily. Okay, so what's been going on the daily? Okay, so it looks like there was, after the similar volatility that we saw on the GBP USD, you can see here that we were trading with this trend line, so this trend support here, and we can see a clear breakthrough there. So for all intensive purposes on the daily chart, we are in a downward trend. And what do I mean by that? Lower low and then a lower high if this does turn out to be our high. So the assumption would be that this is in a downward trend. Also looking at our areas of support and resistance, top priority. Anyone watching this video can see this before I draw it in, then credit to you. And it's pretty, for me, that's exactly where I'm going to draw my line. Okay, so we've had a break from this. We're not necessarily interested in that anymore. Remove that. We're going to concentrate on our nice previous area of support. Breakthrough, come back, retest. Have we got rejection? You bet we've got rejection. So I like that. I like that a lot. And now we started to move to the downside. So that is a great looking, that's pretty classic in my opinion. Support becoming resistance. So a nice sell opportunity here. But let's look at that on the 4 hourly. We want to make sure we're always looking at a nice sort of granular level. I'm digging my new mouse, by the way, people. Right, so what does that actually look like on here? Again, might need to move this up because we are now on the 4 hourly. Does that make sense? Yep, respected. Maybe we'll just pull it out a little bit there. Okay, so we've come into our zone of previous support, now resistance, and then we've moved to the downside here. Now, this is not the most convincing, I will say, of movements to the downside. We've had a lot of jigging around and not really know what's going on. Or shall we, shan't we? Okay, one big impulse. Okay, but now we're losing momentum. That could be because of the time that these candles represent. But my suspicion is I would like to go in and see what's going on the 15-minute. I would be looking for sells. So remember, we've identified the trend. Now I'm only going to be looking for sells. Go to the 15-minute and let's see what's actually going on here. It's weird when it does this. You have to play around with it to make sense of it. Okay, let's see. Get that looking a bit nicer. Okay, brilliant. So I can see what's going on here. We can draw in a couple of lines of support, previous support, now resistance. If I draw this one in, this will hopefully become apparent to everybody. There we go. So it was held up here, comes back down, breakthrough, little break back up. then a rollover, retests this line, and then we get a pretty significant drop off here. Another structure that I'm really interested to talk about, I don't know, as in, I've always called it shelving. When you get this, you get move to the downside, you get a retracement, consolidation, then you get another move to the downside, and then you get a retracement and a little bit of consolidation. Boom, we would expect it to go to the downside. And when I mean by what I mean by shelving um, is that it literally forms these little shelves. You see this here, and you can actually see one forming right there. So effectively the balls are very slowly and pathetically trying to come back up. You'll get this indecision, you'll get this sort of recovery, people reacting, going, "Oh wow, okay, I've sold. I'm gonna buy back," and then you get these really nice little shelves of retracement. So they slowly creep back up. There's not much movement, in terms of distance going on, and they're not, it's not just one impulsive straight line. It's quite staggered, and you get ups and downs going on here. So it did this for a bit, and then you'll notice again, psychology, people will be watching it follow this trend support in the form of this blue line. You'll get a break, you'll get a bit of messing around, and then you'll get a break, because the moment people realize, okay, it's going down, you'll get this really strong impulse. All the sellers will just come in, pile on, and then you'll get a really strong move to the downside. And then everybody sells out, buys back effectively, and you get it again. And it's going to keep doing it. It's going to do this, this, and this. So I'd be really interested in a sell here. If it made it back all the way up to this previous support, now resistance that we've proved here, I'd definitely be looking for a sell. And similarly, if I caught this at the right time, and this is the perils of not being able to afford my charts. I can't sit here all day and watch these, so I may well miss it. But I would expect this to come up and then break back down again. And if I could catch that move, I would quite happily do that. So that is it in a nutshell. I know we've only looked at two pairs. I just wanted to get a video out there, and I thought, you know what, it's a really good idea to show you guys how I do my analysis. Hopefully that's been interesting. The main thing I care about is obviously that it makes sense to you, and hopefully it's taught you something, potentially. I don't want to be as arrogant as to assume it has. But I will keep doing these videos, and I will watch these two setups and let you guys know how they go. So we have two potential trades setting up for tomorrow morning. Hopefully, depends what the Asian session does with them. Asian session doesn't tend to move the markets too much, depending on the pair actually. But we will see what happens. So on that, Brett, I'm going to go to bed. But until the next time, take it easy. And if it's easy, take it.